And we're live. All right, folks, you got to sit through this thing again because I say it every time and it's important that you hear it. So if you want to be part of the chat, go to bravenewnormal.substack.com. That's where the chat is happening. I am paying attention to the YouTube chat, but the main chat is at bravenewnormal.substack.com. We're live. It's free for everybody. Anybody can join the chat. So if you want to join the chat, bravenewnormal.substack.com. Now, if you want to watch the full recording of this live stream, if you pop in halfway through and you want to watch the full thing, you need to be a paid subscriber at bravenewnormal.substack.com. It's $5 for the month, $50 for the year. With your paid subscription, you receive full access to all live stream recordings, early access to podcast episodes, and access to paid-only essays. You can also sign up as a subscriber on X for $5 a month. You get all the same stuff there, so you don't need to subscribe to both. Or you can sign up as a member on YouTube. It's also $5 a month. You get access to the full recordings of the live streams, early access to podcast episodes, but unfortunately, you don't get access to any of the paid-only essays because there's no writing function there. Now, Peyman, you and I are going to start with a topic that I'm going to begin with here. I am routinely suppressed across multiple platforms, as is Peyman. I'm routinely suppressed on X. I'm currently suppressed on Instagram, currently suppressed on YouTube. A lot of the stuff that I'm putting out there gets missed by a lot of people because even though you've subscribed to my channel, my account, whatever, the algorithms don't send it to you. Because that's where the suppression occurs. So if you want to beat the algorithms, if you want to receive all of the things that I'm doing, that Peyman's up to, that we're putting out there, sign up as a subscriber at bravenewnormal.substack.com or inlayterms.substack.com. You do not have to sign up as a paid subscriber. You can sign up for free. You get everything that we produce direct to your inbox, all of the podcast episodes, all of the essays, all of the live streams, all of that. I do not send spam or calls to action. Peyman's a good person. I know he doesn't do that either. So sign up, bravenewnormal.substack.com. Help us beat the algorithms. Peyman Ascari, you beautiful son of a bitch. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Always glad to be on this show.
Yeah, man. Well, let's start with the talk. You were saying the suppression is crazy. So let's talk about that. Like, what are you seeing?
Well, I mean, it's like screaming into the void. It's embarrassing at this point. They can't even hide it. Like you put out a post and nobody sees it. And just from a business model perspective, why is Elon Musk not saying this is going to destroy my bottom line? Like, why the hell would you use X at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I see JP is in the live stream. What's up, my brother? I hope you're doing well. I see posts from him all the time. Like, hey, can anybody actually see this? So I think what's happened, I think we may have talked about this in the last live stream, but I'll reiterate. I think the reason for the suppression on X has to do with ad dollars. I think when they opened up the verified account status to like everybody, so many people signed up that there's only a finite amount of advertising dollars available. And they have the really, really big accounts, especially the big spam accounts like that Mario Nawful guy and others that they need to keep happy because those are the accounts that drive most of the engagement on X. And so if you're like a mid-sized account, like anywhere from like 1,000 to like 50,000 or 100,000 followers, you routinely get thrown into like the suppression dustbin because they don't want you chewing into that ad revenue share. Too much because they need to keep those people happy. They need the ad revenue share, the majority of that money to go to the really big accounts so that they keep posting, so that they keep people engaging. They don't leave the platform and go anywhere else. So what happens is guys like us, like I've noticed myself whenever I get a big payout from X, whenever it's like, you know, anywhere from $500 to $1,000, my account disappears for 2 weeks after that. And I think it's because I'm chewing into too much of the ad revenue. And I think that's really what it boils down to. I don't think it's a content thing. I think it really has to do with if you're an account, like a mid-size account that's gaining a lot of traction with your posts, but you're not generally driving a ton of engagement. They just put you into that, I can't remember, it's like a tiered system, and they put you into that, like that hell tier where you just disappear for a little while. And like I've seen like JP like routinely posting like, hey, can you guys see this? Like, what the fuck is going on? And I think it just has to do with the fact that JP, when he's not being suppressed, he puts up a post that, gets, 50,000, 100,000 views, thus generating ad revenue for him because he's a verified account. And then they suppress him because he's not large enough. Right. And that's really the problem. And I don't know how to break out of that suppression bubble. It looks to me like I did recently, and I don't know why, but I think what they're also looking at is accounts that are getting a ton of traction and gaining a lot of followers, meaning that that account is going to have a ton of engagement in the future. Like for myself, I've stalled at 44,000 followers. I haven't grown at all. However, routinely I'll put something out there that gets like 100,000, 500,000, a million views. Right. So I guess the message should be to people out there, like, if you like stuff that people are producing, then you have to hit that follow button and actually follow them. Because I think that's the key. Because I don't know why, but myself, I haven't experienced any suppression on X for like a month. Right. But I know I'm being suppressed on Instagram because my reels, and which are just clips from my podcast, went from getting like 50,000 views to like 300 views.
Significantly lower. Yeah.
Well, what's fucking hilarious? Instagram reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to schedule a call with me with one of their marketing people, right? And I guess like what they're doing is they're trying to round up the people who have accounts that are quote unquote influential. I would never refer to myself as an influencer, and if anybody did, I'd want to kill myself immediately. But they reached out to me and was like, hey, can we schedule a call with one of our marketing, or I don't know if it's marketing or promotion people, but essentially it was a phone call to help my account grow. And I was like, yeah, I would love to. I would also like to know why my account went from 50,000 routine views on the clips from my podcast to 300. If anybody can answer that question, I would fucking love that. And nobody called me. So... And I mean, honestly, like the thing is, and I know I like harp on Substack a lot, but Substack is where all the really smart people congregate. Like a lot of this shit that you see on X, you will not find on Substack. That's why I love Substack personally, because when I'm looking for real information, that's where I'm going now. Because X is just filled, especially because they opened up the verified account, the verified accounts to everybody. There are a lot of spam generators.
Wait a minute. What was it before? How did verification work before?
I don't know. I think it was like you had to have like a certain amount of engagement and a certain amount of followers, and then they would give you your blue check mark, which, bumped you up in the algorithm. I think. I don't know. But now, like, even like myself, like whenever I get a ton of new followers, I scroll through them just to see if it's like, Brett Weinstein or something like that, because that tells me, okay, now I can reach out to this person and potentially have them on the podcast if it's somebody I would like to talk to, right? And all I see is blue check marks, right? So it's like, like they've kind of leveled the playing field that way, which in a way I like, because I hate elitism. And it's nice to know that, like, I think mine, and I pay $16 a month, and they're kind of breaking that whole elitist bubble, that whole elitist, core that used to pretty much be the only people you saw on X, which is nice. But now, because they've opened that up and they've opened up the ad revenue share to everyone, what's happened, I think, is they've created a scenario that they didn't foresee, which is more people have verified accounts, which means more people have access to ad share revenue, and therefore the slices of the pie are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. However, they have these really, really big accounts that drive a ton of engagement and keep people on the platform. So they need to keep those people happy. So they've kind of walked into a quandary. And I think that's what's driving it. I think it's all ad share revenue. I think it's all money.
Yeah, your understanding of this is much more sophisticated than me. I don't follow this stuff. I just think it's like X is now a cesspool, because anything, if you generate content and if you try to get some message out there, it's not going anywhere. But it's perfect for you to sit there and talk within the echo chamber. So you have the worst of both worlds. You're not getting actual information out, but you're wasting your time talking to other people, which is the only reason that people don't go to Substack. So like our friend JP said, the problem he has with Substack is there's no engagement, right? It's not designed for that, Substack. It's like a channel essentially.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's tons of engagement on the app. Like, my clips, the clips from the podcast, excerpts from stuff that I write, like that stuff drives a ton of engagement on Substack. Like you have to have the Substack app. And the Substack app, I see why Elon Musk hates them, because it functions in the same way that X does. It's just that, if you sign up at Substack, if you sign up as as just a person who's, following accounts and using it as kind of like a newspaper, or if you're, writing stuff on your own and producing stuff, it's just smarter people. Right. And not only that, but there's no ad share revenue. There's none of that shit. Right. So I've never seen a single ad on Substack. I think it's completely driven by writers, podcasters, and their subscriber base. Right. I think that's how Substack makes money. And myself personally, I'm a huge supporter of Substack. Number one, because I know stuff that they've done behind the scenes for people like Sam Cooper, which I can't share here, but they have helped him tremendously in a lot of ways. Myself personally, they've helped me. They don't suppress anything. Like all content on Substack has the same visibility. There's no like tiers or anything like that. And not only that, but that's where people go to write long form. So, if I want to read, something from you, I'll go to Substack, and I like reading long form stuff. I like hearing from smart people. The problem with X is it's just like any other social media platform where, it's filled with bots. I mean, I think the stat I heard at one point in time was that X was like 80% bots. But it's also just like the thing about X too is like there's this, between like podcasters and writers and journalists, there's this like race to create like the most sensational headline in order to draw people in to pay attention to whatever you're creating or whatever you're putting out there. And so what happens is in that battle for engagement, people end up start bending the truth a little, or start exaggerating or becoming more hyperbolic. And you can see that all over X. I don't use X as like a source for information anymore. I mean, I do. I'll go to the news tab and see what's happening in the world. But in terms of like drilling in and going deeper, I go over to Substack.
Things are just changing so quickly now. And I think it's because there's like every day there's like doubling the content, or every 12 hours. So everything is, it's transient, it's transactional, like it's non-persistent. But if you look at X, 12 months ago, I would use it as my news source. Like there was more engagement, and you could kind of use the spaces. Now I go into spaces, it's chaos. I can't use it. And Substack as well. When COVID hit, it was an excellent source. You subscribe to a handful of articles. So you subscribe to like a dozen articles, and they release one a week or one every other week. Yeah. And it would fit in nicely with my Rumble channels, because I'd tune into an hour or two of Rumble podcasts, and it would work. Now Substack, like I'm just inundated by all of these content creators. There's like 50 articles, and now I'm just like unsubscribe.
I know,
so much information.
Well, again, it's one of those things where it's, people see an avenue to potentially earn money, right? And the thing is it attracts a lot of people who only have that motivation, right? So like, yeah, I've unsubscribed from a ton of Substacks just because I see what they're doing. I know what they're doing. Like the thing that I do like about Substack is that my Substack homepage functions as like a newspaper, like as a publication. Like I subscribe to Matt Taibbi, Seymour Hersh, Sam Cooper, like all of my favorite writers and journalists. And when I'm drinking my coffee in the morning, I just scroll through and see what's happening in the world. That's what's really nice about it, is that you can curate your homepage so that it operates as a newspaper. But you're right. The thing is it's just a lot of garbage, man, everywhere, and like at times, like, dude, like I hate Instagram. Like I've always said that like social media is like the social media platforms are like an escalator, like a downward moving escalator. Like you have Substack, and then X, and then Instagram, and then TikTok, and then Facebook. It's kind of like going down the IQ ladder, right? And like I personally fucking hate Instagram. I use it only to push out clips. But like at times I'm like, fuck it, I'll just go. I'm just gonna watch people get hurt for 20 minutes on Instagram Reels, because at least I get a laugh out of it. When I'm scrolling through X, I just get angry because I just see the manipulation, I see the propaganda. And it's funny because it's all the people who started out, trying to speak out against the mainstream propaganda, who themselves became propaganda once they saw that this was a profitable model of content distribution. Right. So now it's just content. It's just shit. It's just garbage. And I don't look at X a lot of the time. Like I feel bad because there's people like you and John Paul and Elliot Dagneau and Dan Dix and all these wonderful, amazing people putting great stuff out there that I'm missing from. But I just get angry when I open X, and it's hard for me to not be an asshole to people, and I don't want to be. So a lot of the time I just post and goes.
I'm a part of a couple of Signal groups that were politically active during COVID. Now they're just they either pro-Palestine or pro-Israel, and they're swearing at each other. All I do now is I just post memes. I'm like, at least I can bring some joy to people's lives.
Yeah, man. Well, that's kind of it's strange, right? Watching watching these things evolve into just hate and propaganda. Like everywhere you look, I mean, like myself, even this week, I haven't listened to anybody's podcast. I've been listening to this podcast called The Jesus Way, which is just an exploration of the real Jesus Christ, who he actually was. And I've been listening to that all week because even Tucker Carlson, or, it's becoming more and more, we're breaking away from the realm of truth and drifting further out into deep space. And I'm not I listen to podcasts or I read stuff because I'm gaining something from it. I'm learning something. And if I'm not learning anything, then I'm just wasting my fucking time.
Yeah, I mean, you could do some philosophical podcasts. I started reading books now because social media is just it's a caustic environment.
Yeah.
But I'm the same. Just look through your feed. Everything is negative, and it's violent. It's not just negative. It's their view. It's like you're turning inside a mob.
It really is, man, and it's disheartening because you lose faith in humanity. That's how I feel. The more I pay attention, especially when I see excuse me, online beef between these influencers and podcasters, and it's so gay. It's guys, there's a lot of really bad shit happening right now in the world. Maybe we should set our focus on that and not make these things partisan issues or slide or slip our own partisan delusions into it. Why don't we just talk about what's happening? And yes, if this is attributed to the left or the liberals or the Democrats or whatever, then yes, we will attribute that to them. But let's just put the information out there. That's what I've been trying to do recently, is just put the information out there, real information, and try to hold back from, doing the exaggerating, hyperbolic, okay, let's go into a topic for today, because we've been talking about online platforms for 20 minutes. This Danielle Smith, Mark Carney memorandum of understanding, which is it makes me cringe. It makes my heart die a little bit every time I hear that phrase, because really all it is just, we want to do this, you want to do that. How about let's work together and try to come to an agreement? Great. There's nothing binding in that MOU, right? They did this huge press conference and, this big signing of the memorandum of understanding, to I don't know what message they're trying to send. I guess make people believe that there's a deal, some form of deal that's done. But it's just fluff. Again, it's just more shit. It's nothing real. And when you look at the deal itself, in my opinion, I think it's terrible for Alberta. I think it's terrible for the world. And it just leads me more into believing that Danielle Smith is a federalist who has her eye on leading the federal Conservative Party in the future.
Can you educate me? Do you know what's in that deal that you said is terrible? I haven't looked at it.
Oh yeah, so this is what I was going to say. So that deal, when you go on like X or any of the platforms, you have all of these varying interpretations of it, right? But it's all steeped in ideology. It's all steeped, like, the left aren't the only ones with an ideology. The right has an ideology as well. And so, like, the reactions as I'm scrolling through X, looking at this deal, trying to find the actual information, it's all misleading. It's all just interpreted through their lens in the way that they want to see and hear and understand it. And so I went through, like, I don't know, probably like 15, 20 different, like, videos and write-ups to try to see what was going on. And it was clear that I couldn't get any real information because it was all opinion, right? Like, this one guy did this huge write-up on it, and maybe only 3 of the 50 points that he made were valid, because of the rest of it has nothing to do with Alberta energy, oil, gas, nothing, right? It's just more complaining. And, like, that's my thing, is just, like, stay on topic, dude. Don't mix the other issues in with this one, because you're muddying the truth now and you're making it look way worse than it is. So to say that, from what I understand, the federal government is going to scrap the emissions cap on Alberta, which was a huge deal, because the emissions cap really is a production cap, right? Like, if you can't emit, X amount of CO2, then you can only produce so much oil and gas, right? So they're scrapping that. I think there's this agreement to work with British Columbia on getting a pipeline from Alberta to the BC coast. But here's the problem. David Eby has already said that he's going to get in the way of that. He's not going to approve it. And there's nothing in the agreement that binds BC to agreeing to a pipeline. So Danielle Smith in the press conference is doing all of her political grandstanding like this is some massive achievement. But the fact of the matter is that pipeline won't get past Alberta's border. So there's that. The thing that really bothers me is that throughout the agreement, as it appears online, there's all this talk about working with Indigenous groups, Indigenous partners in these pipelines and in this oil and gas production. Why do they get a say in this? Like, I mean, I get it from an ideological perspective, from if you want to go down that road. The whole, this is sovereign territory. We need to put our pipeline through sovereign territory. Therefore, we have to work with these Indian bands to get the pipeline built. We need their partnership on this with us. But my thing is, how much money are you giving them every year? Because if you're subsidizing them to the tune of millions of dollars, and they really shouldn't have a say on whether or not that pipeline moves through their territory.
I don't know where to start, man. Let's lay the foundation for what's happened. So you have Bill 9, I believe, which is the Alberta is trying to stop transgender ideology and men and women's sports, and they're threatening to use the notwithstanding clause. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. And then you got this MOU, which is a second thing. And then the third thing, which is Guilbeault has resigned his commission as from the cabinet, which is, it seems like, you and I are happy, but he's still getting paid. He's still out of jail. But like these three things have happened. Eby is saying that he will block a pipeline. And I have to ask, like, does Eby have the power to do this? Because I think Carney, they brought him in because either Trudeau messed up badly or he succeeded in doing whatever they wanted him to do. And they said, all right, mission accomplished. Now we're going to bring Carney in, and we have to take down the temperature because the country might drift radically to the right and start voting conservative. So Carney is more pro-war than the Conservatives. He's promised to beef up defense, the border defense, like at our southern border with the U.S. I don't know if they're actually fighting the fentanyl crime, but they did other things. They bought a whole bunch of drones for the border. They outlined this when the king came and gave his throne speech. They did a bunch of these things, and they threw a couple of things to the NDP as well. What I'm trying to say is the Carney administration is thinking tactically, like how do they win? So they might go to an EB and say, listen, we're all on the left and we're green fanatics, but now is not the time. And I don't know if Guilbeault resigned because he's through and through an actual eco-communist, and he found what they the deal they signed with Alberta as odious, or if this is just part of some theater where they said, listen, Guilbeault, let's take the temperature down. You resign, and we'll get you a post in the UN with like a 6-figure salary.
I don't know. I mean, that could be it, but there are other issues with this deal, right? Like, I think I read, and I don't know how accurate this is, that it will increase the carbon tax, the industrial carbon tax, by 600%. So a big part of this deal is getting Alberta's oil and gas to Asia, because Asia is a huge market. And of course, naturally, Mark Carney is hitching Canada to the China ship, which is incredibly dangerous for us. And Peyman, we can go into that after if you want to. But this is all part of Mark Carney's moving Canada closer to China. And so a big part of his deal is, and I would imagine that this was part of the discussion between Xi Jinping and Mark Carney, was we need oil and gas. We need a lot of it. Can you supply us? And I think that's probably the one of the main motivating factors in this deal, this MOU, whatever that means, between Alberta and the federal government, right? So they're going to they're going to stay on the same carbon pricing track, right? So that's going to increase carbon taxes by 600%, which means Canadian oil and gas is going to be some of the most expensive in the world, right? So, you want, maybe what we would do is we'll reduce the cost, say, for China, but the cost for you and I, anybody who's using Canadian oil and gas, who's not part of these massive trade agreements, is just going to be absurd. So it's like the money that Alberta could potentially earn is dampened by that carbon tax increase. Furthermore, Alberta is going to be building the largest carbon capture facility in the world, the largest carbon capture program in the world. So that's, again, I'm imagining that we are going to be offsetting the profits earned from oil and gas into these carbon capture technologies. So that means you and I, or anybody in Alberta, or Canadians in general, aren't going to benefit. Not to mention the fact that we're still going to be sending 40% of everything we earn over to Quebec and Ontario. So, like, this deal, it's not really a deal. It's just like, hey, we're gonna make it so that you guys can operate at full capacity. However, there's a shit ton of caveats, right? And this is the thing that bothers me about Danielle Smith, is that I don't think she sees she's being swindled. And I think that she's been very unsuccessful in dressing up this deal to be anything more than what it is. And so there's been a lot of pushback online from commentators and different people, because they see it for what it is. So although we're scrapping the emissions cap, and although we're going to try to build a pipeline and push it through BC, we still need BC to work with us. And not only that, but like what you said earlier, there's still like if Alberta has its own independent rights, then so does BC. And so we can't make BC do anything. And I think you're right. Maybe on the back end, there's going to be some sort of deal between EB and Carney, where Carney's going to guarantee him a seat at the UN, or one of these elitist organizations after his run as premier in BC is done. But you also still need all of those Indigenous groups along the coast, like the Coast Salish and the Haida and everybody, to work with you to get that pipeline to the coast. So there's a lot of work there. There's a lot of red tape to break through, and it's red tape that the federal government and the provincial governments, including Alberta, have created, because you have all these sovereign nations and territories along the way that you have to keep happy. So, long story short, I don't think any of these pipelines are going to actually they're not going to get built. I think that this is just more rhetoric.
I've started saying that there is no more domestic politics in Canada. There's no domestic policy. It's we're geopolitical